Now, let's get into our portion of the service that we do, our end times and news and prophecy update as we do each week. This is update number 44. Something that, just so that you're aware of, something that it's getting so blatant out there, and I'll show a little bit more as we go along. But the media, the indoctrination, we talked about that real briefly last week. We talked about, and here's the other thing with the media, the music, and it's all mind control, brainwashing. There's also what is called predictive programming. If you're to kind of really unpack how the media operates, and even some of the TV shows, even before the events happened. Okay, there's things that went on in some of the sitcoms or even some of the cartoon, like for example, Family Guy. They had a show before, say, the Boston bombing took place. Everything that was in that show months before that actually happened, you saw exactly it played out the way that sitcom was depicting it. And there's a couple other incidents like that. That's an example. So before the incident ever happened, you saw something on TV before that happens. Predictive programming. So there's a whole science to the whole thing and how they're doing it, but it's really, and here's a term, some people think it's a conspiracy, but it's called the Illuminati. Illuminati, it's really how Satan is really behind it all and how he's influencing the media. And you see the all-seeing eye. And so many of the artists, how they're, covering their one eye. You see the symbols all over the place. That's all part of this whole thing. And again, some would just call it's just a conspiracy. You don't have to dig far to see there's more facts behind it. And the deeper you dig, the more you're going to be exposed and see what's really going on. There's a festival that's been going on for quite some time. It kind of, even before the movie Tomorrowland came out. But it's called the Tomorrowland Festival. It's really, it's the largest festival really dealing with electronic, music festival, the type of music. And it's people end up getting to a trance through all this stuff. At first it seems very subtle with their satanic symbols and what they're doing, but there's programming that's happening, influence behind it. If you were to ever see some of the Video Music Awards, especially in the States, satanic rituals taking place. The Super Bowls, usually satanic rituals are getting there. So it's all part of programming people, numbing them down. You see the promotion of homosexuality, bestiality, bisexuality. And to understand really what's going on, not that I would encourage you, because you have the truth, you know the right from wrong, but to understand the industry, you have to understand occultism and Luciferian worship, because that's what it is. The songs that are playing on the top 10 hits these days, all satanic. Even though it's so subtle, it's harmless. No. If you're to really understand and unpack what these lyrics mean, if you're to see what those videos are producing, a lot of pedophilia, that's part of the message behind most of the music. And crazy stuff when you start to unpack what happens in that industry. And if you want to, you see the difference between some of the artists when they're all nice, when they first start out, and then you see them where they're now, there's a transformation that took place in a bad sense. So there's where if you want to go high up, then you got to submit and you got to obey and get involved in the occultism and the satanic side of things. Speaking of that, Fox Network is launching a new TV series called Lucifer. So the subtle side of Satanism in Hollywood is a thing in the past. Now it's so blatant in your face. They're not hiding it anymore. So what has happened with the programming, the indoctrination over years, is those little comments, little by little. Same thing with homosexuality. 20 years ago, little things pop up there. So now our generation, they're numb to it. They're okay with it. And you tell a lie often enough, people are going to believe it. This is how they started communism as well. This is how the homosexual movement has gotten so, in our face these days, because it's those subtle things, and until you're just tired of hearing it, you just shrug your shoulders. That's how they got their agenda so far. So this sitcom, Lucifer, and again, it's just blatant in your face of what they're trying to portray and kind of glorifying Satan through this particular sitcom. It will be coming out later on this year, or most likely in 2016. Just something to be aware of. But you see, the masses are increasingly obsessed with evil. So why, make a show glorifying Satan? Because that's his agenda. You see it even with the politicians. Both sides of the aisle, if you will, are a perfect example of this as well. You see, their tailored suits, plastered smiles, phony, parading themselves as champions of people while quietly accepting bribes of these self-interest groups. Many of them are just blatant liars, of course. People keep voting for them. But as the saying goes, every country has the government it deserves. And perhaps American society grows with the obsession of demons, vampires, werewolves, and other satanic entities, is exactly why evil has become a no-hards ball in the past for millions of Americans. The programming that happens in the media is what we got today. So it's just crazy to see just how blatant it is. And then on the heels of this, there's this new witchcraft-inspired challenge that lures kids into summoning demons. Very similar to the Ouija boards, but this one's called Charlie Charlie Challenge. And it's a yes or no type thing and how they have it set up. But it's this whole demon summonings under the guise of this carefree fortune telling, and just asking this demonic. And again, it's just demons controlling this. So whoever this Charlie is not there. You can't be everywhere at once. So it's demonic. And this is how fortune tellers and the tarot cards, because they have the familiar spirit, so it's demonic stuff. Because if you ever talk to people that, hey, how did they know this? Well, because demons are around us all the time. They've been around since creation. So they're going to tell you things of your past. They're not going to tell you things of your future. So that's why they say, well, how did you know that? Because the demons are familiar and they're speaking to those that have that familiar spirit. But this sort of thing, it's catching the world by storm. And the purpose is to chant to summon a demon and then to ask yes or no questions by those being present. So the demon is believed to move the pencil to one point or the other. So there's yes or no on either side. And so when participants finish playing the game, they have to ask Charlie if they can leave. And if they're not allowed to disband until the demon gives them permission. And so this is the innocent schoolyard fun that's happening these days. And so someone once said we felt like they're surrounded by evil presence that were being watched. And then they kind of give some descriptions. I saw a man figured on the top of the steps with black and red eyes. Just demonic stuff. But it's getting so in our face these days. The media is not even downplaying it anymore. It's just so blatantly obvious. And so the interest in tapping into the demonic realms has soared since last year. There was a film, a Ouija board, or Ouija, and despite the movie's message, clearly emphasizing the dangers of doing so. And those who claim to use the Ouija board movement is solely due to suggestion of group thinking and hands-free of, Charlie Charlie doesn't offer the excuse for the activity of users what they're experiencing. So it's demonic stuff that's happening. And, these teens are specifically seeking advice from a demon. So that's that's going on. So it's catching on with a lot of schools around the world. So we have to be very careful and warn our kids. Last week, as we mentioned about Ireland changing its constitution to accept gay marriage, here's another story behind it and why it got to where it did. And what we can learn from the vote of redefining marriage, because we're facing it today in our country. Number one, traditional Christian religion cannot stop the destructiveness of gay activism. Okay? Living that vibrant faith, will have that energy and commitment and depth to stand. If Christians really live it out, not just claim it in word only, or hey, I live in Australia, I'm a Christian. We're talking real Christianity, born again, Spirit-filled believers, those are the ones that are going to make the difference. Not just traditional, hey, I'm a Christian religion. Secondly, here's the other thing that's happened, and we've seen it here in Australia as well. The sex scandals within the Catholic Church over the years, decades, had robbed the church of any moral say-so, right? And moral authority. How can the church speak of society, of sexual morality, when it's largely disqualified itself, right? So scandals like this have taken a long time to get over, here in Australia and America. They've been plagued by evangelical scandals as well. So where does the church have the moral say-so when they're just living like the world? Thirdly, Ireland wasn't so ready for the massive influx of gay activists if it wasn't for the funding of America. Sadly, President Obama America has been aggressively forced for normalizing homosexuality, and without American funding and vision, it's doubtful that Ireland would have voted so strongly for such radical change. So there's always, you follow where the money goes, where it came from, A lot of the corruption stuff around the world comes from the United States. So what happened in Ireland should be a wake-up call to the church around the world. Another interesting article that came out, it was a couple weeks ago. The NOW president, NOW is National Organization for Women, but she says that abortion, like contraceptive, is essential health care that saves lives. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. A procedure that has taken over 50 million lives, especially in the United States alone. We're not including Australia here. Australia has high numbers as well. But since 1973, she's ignoring 50% of the people involved in every abortion as well. Every child is being aborted. It's a person. So they're looking, and the reason why she says that, the first place she looks for saved lives from abortion is the high infancy mortality rate. And she says this, that it'd be so much lower if those pesky underprivileged women would just get more abortions. That's right. Her solution to high infant mortality rates is to kill the babies before they get a chance to die. So that's their thinking behind this. But we've seen just the heartbreak behind abortion. It's every country has its issue. But it is a huge problem these days. Abortion care is just another attempt to shift focus of the human being who has killed every single abortion procedure. So that's the term that they're calling it, abortion care. So the other news item, and again dealing with Israel, as we know that the ISIS, other terrorist groups are wanting to get in there. Another group that's coming up from Egypt is wanting to take control over the whole strip and even, eliminate Hamas, even though they're trying to accomplish the same thing. But this, in the coming days, is what they're saying on Thursday, that they're targeting the Eilat port in the coming days. So that just more threats. Not only is there the threat from Turkey, from the prime minister to president to, hey, we want to take over Jerusalem, but they're also getting these threats from these other terrorist groups that want to take over the Gaza Strip to make their way into Israel. And then closer to home, at least 12 Melbourne women attempt to join the militant group to become Jihadist brides. So more than a dozen women, from Melbourne have fled to go into the conflict zones to support the Islamic militants. In some of these cases, become these jihadist brides. I mean, it's like, what are you thinking? It's hard to really comprehend why they would do that. 5 of the 12 successfully joined the terrorist group. Others were turned back or unaccounted for, as the police say. So it's just crazy to see why these ages between 18 to 20-year-old would want to join that. They're trying to glorify the lifestyle of being a terrorist. And they're wanting to be put on this pedestal. But it's just crazy to see young youth, brainwashed to join this, militant, demonic group. So we need to be praying for the youth these days, that there's discernment, that they, make the right decisions to not do stupid stuff like this. And again, there's alternate solutions to dealing with abortion. There's other ways in dealing with the homosexual issue. So as Christians, we need wisdom. We need to be discerning in how to handle these things, and it's going to be more and more in our face as time goes on. And that concludes the update today.